Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, some more moves today. A couple of in-house guys that have been re-signed today. A couple other in-house guys that are signing with other teams. We'll be sure to get you guys updates on those once we get it up. But we wanted to talk about the outside free agent move that we made today, and the Colts competition, QB competition, has finally put a name to it, and that is Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones is now coming to Indianapolis. It was really back and forth between whether or not the Minnesota Vikings and the Indianapolis Colts would sign him. Ultimately, it was Daniel Jones's decision on whether or not the Vikings or the Colts would be his new home. Supposedly the numbers were pretty close between the two, and Daniel Jones decided he wanted to make Indianapolis his new home for a year. And so now the Indianapolis Colts have the quarterback that is going to compete with Anthony Richardson this offseason for that QB1 spot. Cody, before we get into the nitty-gritty details, your initial response and reaction to Daniel Jones being QB1 or QB2 for this next year?
I would say this, I'm not shocked at all. I mean, this has kind of been the guy the Colts have been connected to pretty much for the last couple weeks, right? You talked about Daniel Jones as a guy that could be a player that's not going to be as expensive as a Justin Fields, but isn't going to be one of those guys that doesn't get anything, is going to earn $5 million. He's going to be a guy that's going to earn a decent amount. He's going to have a decent market. So I'm not super surprised by this. It definitely just felt like it was inevitable. The Indianapolis Colts getting a quarterback, Derek, that very similar to Anthony Richardson and the type of quarterback that he is, very physically gifted, has a big arm, can run it, very athletic, but really struggles when it comes to passing the football. And so I look at that and I say, from a schematic standpoint and the type of quarterback you bring in, it's pretty similar to Anthony Richardson. So for Shane Steichen's standpoint, you get a quarterback that can do a lot of the same things well. So, say he has to step in for whatever reason, it makes some sense from that standpoint, right? And just a little bit of a breakdown on the deal here. This is Tom Pelissero who put this on. So $6 million signing bonus, 7.15 base salary, which is fully guaranteed, $850K in active bonuses, that's $50K per game, up to 3.7 in incentives tied to playtime plus playoff wins. So the base value, Derek, $14 million. The max value is $17.7 million. And I know a lot of people, Derek, initially look at that and they freak out because it's $14 million to a guy that's maybe not even going to play for you this year. But then you kind of look across the league, Derek, and you look at some of the other quarterbacks that have signed, not even starting quarterbacks, some guys that are coming in to be backups. I just want to pull up a couple of these, if you don't mind here. Maybe you can find them for me as well. But there are some quarterbacks, Derek, that have been signed already in free agency that are making near that.
Jarrett Stidham's contract was very close to Daniel Jones's. Now, Jarrett Stidham's base salary is a lot less than Daniel Jones's is right now. And that's the number to report, guys. The base salary is the number that you want to pay attention to. It's not the full length of the contract. I know it's 13 guaranteed, but the base salary is what is going to affect the cap space, right? So all the other stuff, like all the other millions that they're getting, that's going to get affected down the road, but that's not going to impact now. So it's not really 14 million this year. It's 7 million, which is a lot less than what some people were assuming. Now, Jared Stidham got $12 million, for his contract that he has for the Broncos. He's going to be a backup. And Tyrod Taylor has a $12 million contract. He had that over a span of a few years. I will give you that. But I think the main difference is, Cody, with what we're seeing here is the differences with Daniel Jones versus other guys that might play backup roles. Daniel Jones, it was actually brought in to actually contend to be the quarterback one. That's what the Indianapolis Colts said they were going to do. They wanted to bring a quarterback in that would not win the job right away, but was going to push Anthony Richardson to his best, because if he didn't play his best, Daniel Jones or whatever quarterback they would have eventually brought in would come in and steal that job from Anthony Richardson. Now, Ballard and company doesn't want that to happen, which is why I thought if there was one name that they were going to get, it was going to be Daniel Jones, because Anthony Richardson should beat him out. But you're right. It's different. The Daniel Jones argument is Daniel Jones is actually coming in to attempt to win the starting job. So that number was going to be a little bit higher, especially since, Minnesota was trying to potentially keep him around as well. And I mean, of all things, Cody, again, we saw the top quarterback numbers in free agency this year. Everything was big. Sam Darnold getting 30 plus million. Justin Fields got 20 million a year. You weren't going to pay that much. So, I mean, Daniel Jones, while albeit I do agree, the number is a little high for me. I would have definitely liked it to be a little less, no doubt. But the base salary being only $7 million and understanding the situation behind Daniel Jones, I understand it, and I'm not going to throw a temper tantrum over it.
Well, I kind of look at Daniel Jones and this quarterback situation right now, Derek. And again, this is the market. This is the market for these type of quarterbacks. And I understand what you're saying about the smaller contract, but Derek, let's not just act like the Colts were outbidding themselves. The Vikings were very much in this, and they wanted Daniel Jones back. So it's not just like Daniel Jones was unwanted, right? He was wanted by Minnesota, ultimately had to make the decision. That was his choice to come to Indianapolis. Both him and the Vikings, both the Colts and the Vikings had a deal on the table. He decided to go with Indianapolis here. And I think that's just the reality, Derek, of where we are amongst backup quarterbacks, right? That's what it's going to take to get Daniel Jones in here with some teams that were potentially interested in him. So I guess I'm not shocked by that number. I know initially people were kind of thrown off by that, but I'm like, that's honestly what it's going to take if you're going to bring in anybody that has any sort of chance to compete with Anthony Richardson, right? Because all the other guys, I mean, really don't at this point, right? Because of the guys the Colts were interested in, I mean, Justin Fields, like you said, making 20 plus million, he's going to start. So he's not really going to have super amount of competition unless, of course, New York does something drastic. Then you have, obviously Sam Darnold, what he was doing, being paid over $30 million a year. Colts obviously weren't doing that. And really outside of that, it's Daniel Jones and Trey Lance. And, Daniel Jones is more of that type of quarterback. I think I would say in comparison, Trey Lance has some of those skills, but I would say Daniel Jones is probably more of a better Anthony Richardson comp at this point. So I guess I look at that and I say, look, I'm never going to stand on a table for Daniel Jones. Trust me. And I know some people probably have up to this point have heard us and been like, you guys are standing up for Daniel Jones. You're seriously trying to defend him. No, not at all. Daniel Jones has been really bad, Derek. Yeah. I'm just going to say that. Daniel Jones was terrible. He was awful a season ago. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. But I kind of look at this and I say, look, he's still fairly young at this point. If there are some positives, he's still fairly young. We've seen quarterbacks in the past who haven't worked out certain places and they turn it around. Not going to say Daniel Jones is going to do that because, again, the last couple seasons, they've been brutal for Daniel Jones. But he's got, some good support around him in terms of the roster. Certainly more support than the Giants gave him the last couple of years.
Yep.
And maybe he is just in need of a fresh start, right? And he has a chance here. Again, he's on a one-year deal, Derek. It's not like he's on a multi-year deal. And it's not like the Colts are paying him an outrageous price compared to what the market has been.
Especially
Honestly.
if you're getting him in here under the assumption that there is the possibility he might actually start. And
Yeah,
and for the fact that you have publicly announced to people, like, we can't trust Anthony Richardson to be healthy right now. Like,
that's what I was going to say.
so if
It's
you have
yeah.
that understanding, like, at least you know you're going to have a young quarterback that has a good arm, that has athleticism, that can run the RPO system that Steichen likes to run. And, at least you have a guy in there that, can at least run the offense. As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling against thousands of other players across platforms, you're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
Yeah, and like we said, it's very similar to Anthony Richardson and some of his skill sets, what he does well, and obviously what he struggles in as well. But yeah, Derek, I think you mentioned that idea of, I mean, you've come out and said it. Chris Ballard's come out and said Anthony Richardson has not been able to prove he can stay healthy for 17 games. So Daniel Jones is a guy that, yeah, he's going to come in and push AR. But Derek, even like you said, like insurance-wise, you need a quarterback that you can feel like you can rely on potentially if AR does flame out, right? And Derek, if somehow AR loses this job to Daniel Jones, you've got your answer on if AR's the guy. He's not. And 1-year deal for Daniel Jones, you cut ties with both of them. If it doesn't go well, you draft a quarterback next year. That's kind of where I'm at right now when it comes to that. I don't love it, but I certainly don't hate it like some people do. And there is some competition, like I said, Derek. And I think for me, I kind of look at just like the shift the Colts have made in terms of the other quarterback they brought in. I mean, Joe Flacco, to him, completely different type of quarterback that they're looking for. And ultimately, Derek, the goal is to have Anthony Richardson being that guy long term. I mean, that's the goal, right, within this, is to push Anthony Richardson. You want him, ideally, if you're the Colts, to pan out and become a superstar this year. That's what you want him to do. Prove that he is legitimately QB1 for the foreseeable future. Yeah. And if Daniel Jones pushes him to be able to do that, we'll look back in a year from now, Derek, and say, that was worth it. That was worth it.
Yep.
Again, right now, it doesn't look like it's worth it. And it may not be worth it. But if that does happen, it'll be worth it. So that's kind of where I stand right now. I don't love it. I certainly don't love Daniel Jones. I think he's not a great player, to be honest with you. But
Yeah,
I look at this and I say, hey, the Colts said they were going to add some sort of competition, and I think Daniel Jones would fit that bill in a guy that can seriously compete with AR. Because let's be honest here, Derek. AR's not a great football player right now. He's not a
yeah.
great quarterback. So
I
let's
was
stop
just about
acting
to
like
say
he's
that.
miles ahead. Like
Yeah.
he's not miles ahead of Daniel Jones, I hate to tell you, but he's not right now.
Right. But that's the thing, right? So we already know that Anthony Richardson is taking the steps this year by working with Josh Allen and working with Josh Allen's QB specialist, Chris Hess. So those types of moves are what is going to hopefully impact Anthony Richardson's ability to throw the football. And like you said, I never loved this quarterback competition thing. I think it was a bunch of smoke. And whether or not this is smoke or not, it doesn't seem like it because, if you're paying 14 or if you're paying $10 million for a backup quarterback, you're going to assume that the guy is going to at least attempt to, maybe get some snaps here and there. But you're right. Anthony Richardson hasn't provided you with a stability to feel like it's doing anything. And everyone's like, oh, this is the competition we're bringing in. Like, what other competition was there? If you paid Sam Darnold, there is no competition. You're playing him. You're not paying him $30 million to sit on the bench. That's not happening. Even Justin Fields, you're not paying $20 million for Justin Fields to maybe sit on the bench. That's stupid. You don't do that. You find a quarterback that you can pay him you find a quarterback that is good enough to push your potential QB1 to be better than what he is and potentially steal the job, but still bad enough to where if you paid him an X amount of dollars, you wouldn't feel too bad if he was sitting on the bench still. So that's the ultimate conclusion that we can draw here from this, seeing Daniel Jones being brought in on a 1-year deal. And I think I need to remind people again, it's 1 year, guys. It's 1 year. After this year, Daniel Jones might not even be part of this team anymore. He might just be an afterthought. The hope is that even with a little bit of time, Anthony Richardson is going to realize, oh man, like they're being dead serious. Like I might actually lose my job here if Daniel Jones ends up, coming in and being better than me. I mean, again, like I said before, if Daniel Jones beats Anthony Richardson out for QB1, then there's a lot of people that are going to get fired next year. I mean, that's a true statement. So if Anthony Richardson looks at it and says, oh, so Ballard's willing to put his stake on the line for me for the fact that, if this other guy goes out and beats me, then that's likely to get him fired, then this must be really serious. Like, that's the whole point, right? I hate the fact that we need to be at that point, but who knows? Whatever it'll take. If it proves nothing and AR is still trash after this year and Daniel Jones is still trash after this year, then you're going into a clean slate in 2026 and you go find a new quarterback and you try to find a franchise guy at that point. But you gotta just take it for what it is. It's just bringing in another name to hopefully, drive Anthony Richardson to be better. And if Anthony Richardson were to miss time, you have another quarterback that has the similar athletic abilities and has the wherewithal to run the same offense that Anthony Richardson does.
The bottom line for me, Derek, is this. This was a clear message to Anthony Richardson and his camp. This is it for you. If you do not improve drastically from where you were in 2024, you may not be the starter in 2025. And let's not act like Derek, if Anthony Richardson is the same quarterback he was in 2024, Daniel Jones might beat him out. But if Anthony Richardson seriously improves, then he'll be the starter. That's where it is right now. That is a clear message. You have to get better and better quickly, Anthony. Because if you're not, see you later. We're going to find another guy. That's what I look at it as. Is like, let's not act like Daniel Jones isn't legit competition. Because Anthony Richardson was a terrible quarterback a year ago. He was terrible. He was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Let's not act like he was a top 15 quarterback, Derek. Even when healthy, he wasn't. Let's stop acting like it. Daniel Jones is legitimately competition because that's how bad Anthony Richardson was. It speaks more to Anthony Richardson's poor 2024 than it does about Daniel Jones as a quarterback. That's where we are. That is the reality. And if you can't see it, maybe you need to get off glazing him a little bit and look at it as it truly is. Look, we've defended AR for a while, Derek, but we can go on record and say he was a bad quarterback in 2024 for the majority of the season. He was. That's a reality. You look at the quarterback rating, you look at the completion percentage, you look at the touchdowns, interceptions. None of it pointed to him being a good quarterback in 2024. None of it did. He has to come out here and prove that he is the guy. And if he does not make drastic improvements, the Colts have put their money where their mouth is. Daniel Jones will be your quarterback. For better or for worse, he will be your quarterback. If AR does not seriously become like the 10 times the quarterback that he was a year ago. That's the reality, Derek. And that's why, like, I know some people hate the quarterback competition, but I think that's why you needed to have somebody like Daniel Jones to make that happen, to not let AR just get handed this job. Because you got to figure out one way or another if he's the dude or not. A lot of people think he's not. There's people who still think he is. But the bottom line is, Derek, what I said, he's got to prove it. If he does not prove it, sorry, you're not our QB next year. We're moving on. And you move on for both of them, you start fresh. That's what you got to do.
Yep, 100%. Well, that's it for this one, guys. That is the QB competition, guys. The Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. We will continue to have more updates on this as we get into more of the offseason and as we get closer to the season. That'll be a training camp battle to watch, no doubt about it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate all of your support. And as always, guys, go Colts.